Well, good morning and happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you're having a good morning. I'm just looking at my mess over here. Look at that. That's my tattooing mess over there. That's still within camera shot. So pardon me for not taking care of the office before I came on this morning. I hope you're all having a good time. What does Roger Rabbit say? Y'all are coming with me on a journey for coffee. That's a good way to start the show. Good morning, everybody. I hope you've got your cup of coffee. I've got mine in my Son of a Patriot mug, which you too can get over on my Etsy page. How's that for slipping in a little self-advertisement? It's down in the scroll bar below. You can go take a look at all the stuff we have over there. T-shirt designs, mug designs, stuff like that. So welcome this morning. Glad to have you here. It's been a week of not doing any Intrepid radio programs for various reasons. But the first one on Monday was I was just exhausted and I just couldn't bring myself to do my show. And so I canceled out, and which is okay to do. I'm not under contract with anybody, but thankfully Russ Hesledge, the owner of Subspace Odyssey Radio, he's pretty lenient with me on some of those days. So I canceled out on Monday, and then Wednesday was something very similar, and I canceled out. And then Thursday changed the course of all events for a few days, and I'm going to tell you a little story about that. As the graphic for this morning, if you had not seen it, here it is for those watching. As this graphic might indicate, there is a story behind this picture, and Raini may or may not come in this morning. We had a long day yesterday. My older kids, Sam and his girlfriend, took our kids out to the Renaissance Festival yesterday, and in full costume. He took Flynn, and he took Flynn's girlfriend. He's got a girlfriend at age 14. And he took Rowan along, who wore Rainey's old costume, a beautiful court dress that she made for Renaissance era, Tudor era court dress. Looked gorgeous on her. It was a little big on her, but it fit. And Rainey tucked it in places they needed to, and so she looked good. So they went out yesterday, and we still had the 8-year-old who they just didn't have room to bring her in the car. And so Sam said, let's do it again, and I'll bring her another time. And so she was all heartbroken that she couldn't go along yesterday. And it would have been tough on all the older kids to keep an eye on her out at a festival where you get 15,000 to 20,000 people a day out there. So she came with us. We took her shopping, and we put aside a couple of bucks to take her out and get her a couple of, she wanted to go look at makeup at the mall, and bought a little stocking cap. We went to Half Price Books and got a couple of books, which was cool. And we ate at her choice, Chick-fil-A, which wreaked havoc on Rainey's and my digestive systems yesterday, because we don't eat that kind of stuff very often. And so that was yesterday, and so we had a good day yesterday. And so it's been a fun weekend so far. And this morning I'm going to tell you a little tale, as you might imagine. Something I am not short on energy ever to do is tell you a good story. And as those of you who have seen the graphic, again, I'll put it up for those of you coming in late. If you had not seen the graphic, there's a story behind this graphic. And as you can see there, I tried to put on and mimic my best Trump face, his mugshot for this. But yes, that is not the actual mugshot, but I did have a mugshot taken this weekend, this last week. And I'll tell you all a little bit about that. And I'm going to say there are certain things I can't say because I still have to appear in court for something that I did not realize I had to appear in court for until Thursday of this last week. So let's start there. On Thursday, after school, yes, thank God school is back in session, My daughters came home, and I was down here working, and Rainey had to go run off and do some errands, and she and the girls mentioned there's a white pickup truck that's been parked across the street from our house, across the street and down about half a lot down from us. And we'd never seen it in the neighborhood before. And mind you, we live in a small town, and we live in a quiet, nice neighborhood. And here's this pickup truck, and we kind of looked around. We wondered if it was somebody visiting one of our neighbors, but it was still in the afternoon. It was 3:30 in the afternoon, and so we waited a while, and it sat there for another half an hour. The windows were all blacked out, and I tried to assure my daughters that my 8-year-old, my 11-year-old, who were a little nervous about it. They had all the doors locked upstairs and everything after Rainey left. They came and told me about it, and I assured them that it's probably just somebody visiting somebody else. We'll just see what happens. And the car never moved, and so finally, around 4 o'clock, I called the police department, local small town Somerset police. And remember, our town is about a block long, and then all residential areas and farming community around us. So I called them, and I said the non-emergency number, and I said, hey, there's a car sitting out here, a little pickup truck. I said, my daughters are more concerned than I am. I said that it might be somebody. I said, and it's been sitting there for well, at this time, I think they must have gotten home early, because that car sat there for about an hour. So the timing is a little bit off, but sometime around 3:30. And it was the first week of school, and I think they got a half a day on Thursday or something like that. And so they were home, and so the police came out within about a half an hour. The police were there, and my daughters, I sat upstairs with them and said, oh, the police are out there. They're looking at the car. And I said, cool. And then they walked up to the house, because I made the call, and I told them, this is Scott Roberts. Here's my address and all of that. Hey, Audrey. I see Audrey is here. By the way, everybody, Helene Moody, thanks for being here. Morgan Snow, good to see you. Sandra Saunders, good to see you. Field Guy, Philip Blair, Allison, good to see you. And everybody's out there. I think Russ is out there too. I was chatting with him a little before the show. He's probably out there somewhere. Steph Cuervo Queen is here. Randall Flagg is here. Elderberry is here. And the list goes on and on and on. So good morning to everybody. And if I missed your name in the list here, it's because I'm not looking very close. Kelly Bell is here. Well, so after the cops checked out, and they sent 2 squad cars that I saw, and I said to the girls, I said, it's all okay. They're checking it out. And they came up to the door, and as I saw them walking up, I opened up the big garage door, and I walked out, and I said, and I had a cup of coffee in my hand, and I lit up a smoke or something like that. I said, hey, how you doing? Brianna. How you doing, Brianna? I'm getting to that. There's a good story here, believe it or not. So after they told me, hey, yeah, we checked out the car. There's nothing to it that we can find, and but we'll keep an eye on it. And then the one cop said to me, he said, they're standing there with me, and we're talking. And he says, I got some kind of bad news for you. He said, when dispatch called us, they said, you also have a warrant for your arrest. And I said, oh, seriously? And took a sip of my coffee, and I said, whatever is this warrant for? And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, your mind already goes, oh, is there some parking ticket I didn't pay 18 years ago, which I was one other time before I met Rainey. It was the year before I met Rainey in 2003 to 2004, somewhere in there. It was the year I met Rainey. I had been pulled over because somebody ran my plates, a trooper ran my plates, and I was arrested for an old parking ticket that at that time was 8 years old. something like that, an unpaid $138 fine. Hello?
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Ready?
Here's Ellie.
Ready?
Ready? Are you ready, folks? Are you ready? Oh, turn that off. That's one of the little things Ellie got at the mall yesterday. It's an alarm.
And the
So
flashlight.
we were at the bookstore, and she went into the bathroom, and I heard that go off. And some old lady looking at books next to me, she goes, "Oh my, what is that?" I go, "I think I know what that is." So, Field Guy says, my dad owes the city Biloxi $200 from 25 years ago. Nothing happens. Well, as a side note, this old thing, I was arrested for that, and I was taken to jail, and I had to sit there overnight, and I didn't have to see a judge or anything. I just had to pay the fine. And I happened to at the time, and this is Minneapolis, so it was Hennepin County, and a big city, Hennepin County, downtown. I happened to have in my wallet at the time about $700. This is now 2003, 2004. And I remember Uncle Dave happened to be over at our house. And the cop, I had my children, my twin daughters in the back seat, and Sam. And since I was only 2 blocks from my house, and I got pulled over at an intersection, the trooper was kind enough to let me drive my kids back home. I said, "Look, I got a friend there," so he let me drive the kids home. No, he didn't let me drive them. We all had to ride in the squad car because he had my car impounded because I owed an old fine. And so Uncle Dave took the kids, stuck around, and he said, "Why don't you give me your cash?" And he says, "Just in case." And I said, "Well, I better keep it because I might have to pay this fine. $138 was what it was." And so I went downtown, and of course, they didn't let me pay my own fine. As a matter of fact, they took my money from me. And when I got released, they didn't even give me my money back. They had to send me a check, which I got within the next couple of weeks for my cash. So I had $700 that they, I think I had in my wallet for rent. I was going to go cut a check for it or something. I don't know what it was for. But I had that much cash in my wallet, and I couldn't even pay my own fine. I could have stood there at the desk, paid my fine, and been home within an hour. No, they kept me from 9 in the morning till about 3 the following morning, when Uncle Dave and my then girlfriend, Lindsay, had to go get the cash out of the bank and run it down and pay my fine for me. So, and then that was the end of the story on that one. But I had to do, and that was the first time I learned from people that are in the know about this kind of stuff, that the jail system gets money based on how many hours they keep somebody there. So I was kept for, you do the math, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is 12 hours, till between 2 and 3 a.m. when I was finally released, which is another 5 hours. So 17 hours I was kept for something that was a 5-minute transaction from the money in my pocket. So, and it was a 7-year-old parking ticket that had been increased to $138 because it sat for 7 years unpaid. Out of sight, out of mind. And I never got a bill for it. They don't bill you. You just find out eventually, if it's important enough, nothing gets done. They just put a bench warrant out for you. So that was back in 2003, 2004. Anyway, a clunky, inefficient system. I think so, Philip. Very clunky. If you can pay your own bond, why do they keep you in jail? Well, here, let me just pay the bill. So anyway, that's the way it worked. And now let's get back to the present. So I had the cops And he was almost apologetic to me because we had seen him around, and he was in the scouts that Rainey is a den leader in, or a troop leader in. They had a dunk tank at the local fair a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And this cop was one of the guys that was in the dunk tank. And so we knew him. We had talked to him before. And he looked at me rather apologetically, and he said, look, you got a warrant out. They called in this, they said, you got a warrant for not appearing in court. And I said, not appearing in court for what? And then he said, you remember that thing? And he was the same cop. You remember I told this story, and I can't say much about this because now I still have to appear in court over this. There was a woman in the park that her fifth grade boy had beat up my second grade daughter this last April. And it was a big event, ball games and stuff going on at the park. And I went down to get my kids, and I saw the mom, and I confronted her. Confront is not the right word because I wasn't like hostile in approaching her, but I said, hey, you and I should talk about this little incident that took place between your son and my daughter. And she immediately lit into me and was ballistic. And I told this story before. I'm not going to retell it now because I'm going to have to talk about it in court. But later that day, I got a call from this same cop. This is back in April. And he wanted to interview me about this incident because somebody in the parking lot called it in and said there was a disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace type of thing going on. Now, you all know me. You know my personality. You know what I'm like. Despite my being very upset that her fifth grade boy had beat up my second grade daughter, I think I was in pretty good state of mind. I kept myself professional, but I was stern. And and basically talked about, there has to be some accountability here. And the woman simply proved to me why her son would beat up a second-year-old girl by her attitude and her actions that day. And somebody had approached me and said, somebody knew me in the community. I didn't know who it was. They just said, hey, Mr. Roberts, just walk away from this woman. Just walk away. I said, you are right. And so I walked away and I left it. And I got called by the cop later that day who interviewed me. And he said, I've got to file this as a not disturbing the peace, disorderly conduct. And I said, well, keep in mind, I said, there were hundreds of people at a ball game all over there cheering and all their backs to us because the ball field was over there. I said, there was like 5 or 6 people in the parking lot that witnessed this. 2 of them filmed it. My own daughter, Rowan, filmed it, the confrontation. And I said, and it lasted a couple of minutes and I walked away. And so all of that's all I'm going to say about that right now. And so this cop said, well, he said, here's the key. He said, you may or may not. Yeah, Brianna, I have my twin daughters, Abby and Bryn. She brought that up in the past there. So he said, you may or may not have the district attorney want to file charges on this. And you might have to appear before a judge. I said, okay. I said, fine. I said, if I need to appear before a judge, I said, I'll be more than happy to go in and talk to the judge and tell him what happened. More than happy. I said, just let me know. He says, well, I wouldn't let you know. The county would. I said, okay, cool. That was April 25th. I didn't hear another word about this or notifications or anything until Thursday of this last week, when I found out I have a warrant for my arrest for not appearing in court for a disorderly conduct charge. And I said to the cop, I looked at him, I said, you have got to be kidding me. I said, well, you know what? My wife is away. I've got my daughters at home. I said, do you seriously need to arrest me? I said, I can just go down tomorrow and take care of whatever needs to be done or reschedule a court date. And he said, no, we can't do that. We have to take you in. And by this time, it's about 4:00 on Thursday. And I said, what's the likelihood that a judge is going to be able to see me today? He says, oh, I don't think it's going to be anything. He says, you'll go in, you'll sign a piece of paper, they'll set a new court date. He says, I'm not even going to cuff you in front of but I got to drive you in. I suppose they have some rules that if they're notified. And I said, are you serious? I said, it's a holiday weekend coming up. I said, I could go in now. I said, or I could just go in on Tuesday morning. I said, you guys know me. You know where I live. I said, as a matter of fact, I called you to my house. If I'd have known I had any kind of a warrant, would I have called the police to hi, there's a warrant for my arrest, but I need you to come and check out this car in front of my house. So, and you know me too, listeners, everybody out there. I'm a pretty good-natured fellow. You can get me incensed about politics. You can get me incensed about certain things of injustice and things like that. But I thought I was handling myself very well. I handled it with humor. I talked to them the same tone of voice I'm talking to you now. And I said, well, okay. I said, I suppose if you got to take me down, I'll go down and take care of business. I said, I could just do this probably on the phone tomorrow morning. Well, we got to take you in. It's the rules. Okay. All right. Well, okay. I said, why don't you come on in the house? Let me tell my daughters what's going on. I'm going to call my wife, who, Rainey was out at Flynn's football game on Thursday. If you saw the pictures on my Facebook and my Instagram. And so they came in the house. It was fine. I said, pardon the mess. Brianna, you know our house. You know what it's like all the time. If I lived alone or if it was just Rainey and me, our house would be pristine. It would be decorated. It would be nice. I got 3 humans here that don't care what a garbage can is, that don't care that things go places, that they need to pick up their clothes and their junk and all of that. So you're all pretty aware of what that's like. So I told the cop, and it wasn't too bad. They had to come in. They came in through the garage, which opens up into our laundry room, and they had to walk over a pile of laundry. I said, pardon the laundry. And we stood in the living room, and I said, this is my daughter, Rowan, and her friend was there. And I said, let me call Rainey and tell her what's going on. So I called Rainey, and they were pretty calm. They were chit-chatting with Rowan a little bit, and I had Rainey on speaker. And Rainey was like, what? And she was not happy about all this. Not unhappy with me. She was unhappy about the whole thing. And she said, well, when am I supposed to pick you up? I said, I suppose you could, once you're done with the game, just come on down and pick me up. I'll be at the St. Croix County Jail, the government center and the jail and all of that, which is about a 25 minute drive from here. So, in Rocky Stucci's hometown, not hometown, but where he used to live in Hudson. And so where our county seat is. So, I said, just show up around, as soon as you're done with the game, come on down. I'll text you as soon as I've got business taken care of. And the cop actually was assuring me that you just got to go down and sign a paper, reset a court date. Okay. So little did I know at that time, I still had to appear before a judge to do that. And it was already after 4:00 on Thursday. The cop didn't mention anything about that. And now, what was also funny, I mentioned the cop's name, and Rainey said over the phone, she goes, oh, that's who Rowan refers to, and the girls at school refer to as the hot cop. He's a young, good-looking guy. And I saw he put his thumbs in his vest, and was a little blushy. And Rowan covered her face and was laughing and was blushing. I said, yeah, you're the hot cop. And so that's the way this whole arrest was taking place. So, Steph, I can't talk about that because it's still an active case. Well, the case is actually disorderly conduct is what was filed against me and apparently against the other person as well. But Here's what happened. I get down. So the cop takes me, says, I'm not going to cuff you. And so he took me on a nice ride. We chit-chatted on the ride over to Hudson, which is just backcountry roads. 20 minutes it takes me to get there. It took him 25. And so we get in there. And I'm thinking all I got to do is go up to the desk, take care of this, reschedule my court date. Au contraire. So I get in there and they've got me an intake, and it's kind of dingy. I think it's not a very, you don't want to say it's unsanitary, but the St. Croix County Jail is a nice facility. But, it's all that gray concrete, and it was dark, and it was dimly lit. It was like a TV set almost. And it smelled. It was, I'm trying to think of what the smell would be. It would be the smell of like dirty concrete that you hose down and bleach and hose down and bleach over and over again. I didn't smell the bleach, but there was this tangy smell that was, maybe it was moldy. I have no idea. Hey, Harley, how you doing, Harley? Says Brianna. Harley's saying hi. And by the way, I'll let everybody call in as soon as you want to. The link is here. I'll put the link in so everybody's got it. Brianna, if you want to call and Harley wants to say hi, you can do that. And everybody else, there's the link. So here I am. I'm dressed, I think, rather nicely, about the way I appear on radio. I had my black Wrangler snap-up shirt, and olive drab khakis and nice pair of shoes, and well groomed, I might add, better groomed than I am now. My hair's still sticking up. And so I'm at the desk and they're asking me questions, and they don't ask me very much before they take me to a little room and they strip search me. Literally strip search me. And I say, you got to strip search me? I said, all I got to do is set a date for a hearing. And they don't respond to that. And my attitude, of course, is always very good. I'm joking around. I'm lighthearted. I speak well. I saw a couple of guys. Oh, and when I came in, there was somebody they had in a cell right behind me, behind the desk, that's strapped into some chair, and it was a young guy that was just screaming the whole time for 20 minutes at least, screaming, "Let me out of here! I can't be in here!" And there's at one point you're like, you want to turn and go, "Hey, will you shut up?" And as it went on, it was very obvious that this kid, and I want to say kid, I did get a glimpse of him. They finally took him off the chair, and he was laying on the table in there. This was within a half an hour, and he's laying in a curled up position. He looked like he couldn't have been much more than a 18, 19, 20-year-old kid. Long hair all over the place, and he's laying in the fetal position, quiet. But I looked at that, and my heart immediately went out to him. I thought, this kid shouldn't be in here. He should be somewhere else. You should have him at the hospital. You should have him somewhere, not in lockdown and or lockup. And I thought, what happened to this kid? I didn't ask anybody, but I thought, what happened to this kid that he's in this condition? And I felt really bad for him. Elderberry says the accuser should be in court so you can confront you. Apparently, there wasn't an accuser. Somebody called it in, and the police decided to, the original thing back in April, the police decided to turn it into the court as disorderly conduct. So that I didn't have an accuser, so to speak. So other than maybe the local police, but and we'll leave that sit alone. I can't say, I'm not going to talk too much about that in public until I go back on Wednesday to appear before the judge to set a certain thing. And then I think I don't know if there's a trial or if we just finish it off on Wednesday. So, and that was the outcome, by the way. 5 minutes before the judge, and we just reset the date. And so let me get up to that point in the story. So here I am in the jailhouse, this kind of dingy, kind of stinky jailhouse. And it was, how would you call it? I honestly, even at this point, didn't think it'd be very much more. But I thought, why are you strip searching me? I have to take off my clothes and get strip searched? Why? That's the first inkling I had that I probably wouldn't be going home tonight. So next, they take me to a little room. Oh, it's the same room. I turn around. They got the orange outfit and the orange flip flops and white boxer shorts that obviously have been laundered a million times, and socks that have obviously been laundered a million times, meaning somebody else's junk was in these shorts. And they said, you need to put these on. I said, now, why do I have to change clothes? Because you're going to be here overnight. I said, why am I here overnight? I said, all I need to do is go see a judge, or I need to sign some paperwork, reset a date. That's a clerical thing. And they said, you got to see the judge. You can't see him till 1 o'clock tomorrow, which was Friday. And I said, are you kidding me? All right. So I put on the orange suit. I mean, what can you do at that point? You can't really protest. You're already locked down. You can protest, but then you become that guy, that inmate. They don't care what you're there for. You become that guy that's a problem. All they know, and I'm sure that's the rules they have to abide by, all these deputies and guards and so on, is that everybody's innocent. Nobody belongs there. Everybody's got a thing. They have to treat you all the same. I get that part of it. I understand it. My problem comes, and we'll talk about this a little more later, is that they categorize what happened to me with the same consequences as what happens to somebody who, say, shot somebody in the head or robbed a store or whatever it might be. So they don't care. It's all the same to them. So I got to stay overnight. So I change into my orange. I can't protest. What am I going to do? I'm going to fight my way out. I'd get tased. I'd get shot. Something would happen. And I would end up in worse condition. And I'm there under, what's the word? It's not duress. It's enforced. There's no way to stop that. So, all right. So I dressed in orange. I get taken to then they do the intake. And they ask me all the questions and all of that. Yep. And I was still very good-natured. Brianna says that jail always smells weird. LOL. I've never been in that one, but I picked up a few people there that I won't name. Oh, I think I might know who. But no, I'm kidding. Brianna. So you got to stay overnight so a judge could get his sleepy time, says Roger. Yeah, there's no night court here. Wasn't there a sitcom once in the 80s called Night Court? Because there was a nighttime judge. Obviously, not enough traffic goes through there to warrant a night court. So here I am. After all the questioning, the intake, they didn't take my fingerprints or anything because I think my fingerprints were still on file from when I was arrested 20 years ago for a traffic ticket, unpaid. So they took my mugshot, and that's where I said, can I do my Trump face? And the guy laughs behind this. He says, you can make whatever face you want. And so I did the scowl. And so the picture, this graphic here, as you saw right here, that's not my actual mugshot, but that's about what I did. So that one right there. So anyway, so they took my mugshot and then they walked me down to the cell block. You're going to be in B10, I was told. Carlene, I see you out there. Be patient. I'll get to you in a minute here. And so they walk me down, and there's probably about 15 guys sitting in this common area behind thick glass, and then there's a stairway, and there's cells upstairs and cells downstairs with 2 bunks in each one. And the first flash in my head as I see this cell block, I said, "This is where I got to stay?" And they said, "Yeah." And my first flash in my head was, oh boy, I got to deal with a bunch of criminals. That's the first thing that entered my mind. My daughter, Rowan, even asked me when I came home on Friday, she said, "You were in a cell block with other guys?" She go, "Did anybody attack you?" I go, "No, nothing like that happened." Actually, it turned out I don't care what the crimes are. I'll jump ahead a little. I'll tell you, most of these guys were in a similar situation as mine, but everybody's stories I was hearing were drug related, weapons related, theft, a few DWIs in there. Some of those guys had been sitting in that cell block for months and not going to prison, but doing county jail. And Roger Rabbit, well, they didn't attack me, but Daddy has a new cuddle bear. Yeah, none of that happened. I think, at least for as old as I look, I think I don't look like I couldn't defend myself. So I don't think I'd be in too, knock on wood, this wasn't Rikers Island or prison or anything like that. So it'd be very different there. But I think I come across with a pretty good persona. I can walk into a room and I can be intimidating even when I'm being nice because I'm a bigger guy. I can, Brianna, you know what I look like. I intimidate you when I walk into the room, don't I? So Brianna's the only one in here that she's, Brianna and John, our old neighbors. And so anyway, so I walk into the cell block and I'm thinking, this is going to be interesting. And of course, I have my bed mat, piece of vinyl about that thick that rolls up, and it's supposed to be cushiony. And there's a bag that you've got. There's no pillow, but there were a couple of old towels that, again, looked like towels that we've had for 20 years, and they're now rags. They had that look about them. There was a brown one, kind of mauve one that was probably red at one point, and a green one, a washcloth. And so I had all this stuff, and I had a little toothbrush and a comb. I was given a comb, and which I let them keep. I didn't take it with me. And so I had this all rolled up, and I'm carrying this big mat. I'm upstairs, so I got to go to, you're in B10. I go in there. The beds are not beds. They're slabs of concrete. You throw your vinyl down, and there's like you would call it in a store, a duvet cover. This wasn't a duvet. It was something, a piece of cloth you slipped over the vinyl. So probably when you drooled at night, your face didn't stick to it. Hey, Ruben, I see you out there as well. Hang on. I'll bring you guys in a few minutes here. Just hang on with me. And so that was my bed, a slab of concrete and a piece of vinyl with cloth over it and a flimsy blanket. And it wasn't cold, so I was fine. But so I come out and I don't do much commiserating with my fellow cellmates. They're all watching. There's a TV going, and they're all sitting around, and a couple of guys say greet me and stuff like that. A couple of the other inmates, but by this time it's probably 6-7 o'clock in the evening, and so I stood up there on the upper deck, and I'm watching the TV from up there, and I finally come down. I sit down. Oh, they had dinner. Oh my God, dinner. Dinner was, they serve you in the big, they're like, think of school lunch trays, only they're thick. They're about that thick, and they're rubberized and been washed a million times. And the food they served, and I'll talk about the food, and then I'll bring you guys in, and I'll carry on with the story during conversation. But the food that was set down, I looked at it and I went, I don't think I'm going to eat this. There were a couple of what looked like hot dogs that got overdone in a microwave. And there were 2 open buns laying on top of them. There were baked beans, but they were big beans, like pinto bean sized. A swath of that in there. And there was dessert. There was some kind of cake. It was like a piece of thing. It was about this size. It looked like a small brick. And it was about that thick. And you couldn't tell it was cake. I looked at it. And I had other guys that go, anybody know what this is? And they go, oh, that's cake. It's good. Cake. And it was white, kind of off-white, with a little flecks of something in it. And I took my fork and I peeled off a corner. What it looked like in my head was a slab of bacon grease that had been chilled into shape. And I looked at all of that, and I just pushed the tray out, and I said, I'm not going to eat that. It looked disgusting. And it smelled disgusting. And one guy over there was a tall, skinny, white guy, beard and hair and good-looking dude. And he goes, you're not going to eat that? I'll eat it. I go, it's all yours. So I gave it to him. Here, let me bring you guys in before it gets too far into this. Here we got Carlene and we got Ruben. How you doing, Misa?
Morning.
Hi, Carlene.
Good morning, Carlene.
Morning, Ruben.
Yeah.
You're a hardened criminal now, Scotty.
I am. I asked when they check me out if this is when I get my teardrop tattoo. And one of the other, I asked that of the guys all in the cell block. I said, they said, hey, you're going home. Good luck. Nice to have met you. These guys were all, I will bring it down to this. There were probably some bad guys in there. I would say a good 75% of the men in there seemed like decent people. And we were all talking. We were talking about, I actually met a guy that started talking about, get this, folks, the Nephilim.
Oh, wow.
And talking about, with one of the other guys, and I'm sitting in the circle there, and the TV's going, and he's talking about the Nephilim. He goes, you ever heard of this kind of stuff? I go, I know a little bit of something about that. And so we got to talking about that kind of stuff for a couple of hours. And so I thought I'd never be in a jail cell with a bunch of jailbirds, quote unquote, talking about Nephilim and Hebrew language and theology. He didn't know a lot of the deeper stuff, but he knew about all this conspiracy type of stuff in that category. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Cool.
And so, when I was leaving, this same guy, he goes, see you, Scotty. And I go, see you later. And I said, is this when I get my teardrop tattoo?
Yeah.
And some other guy goes, no, you got to get Kermit the Frog on your cheek. I said, okay, I'll work on that. And so I don't know if there's some significance to getting Kermit the Frog if you've been in jail. I had no idea. I wasn't going to stick around.
We have a prison down the road from us, and I've never seen Kermit. I've seen some pretty interesting stuff. But I was going to tell you need to move to Vermont. You would just get slapped on the wrist.
Yes.
And we had a most horrific incident happen last night. It actually happened sometime last week, but it was discovered last night, and somebody actually killed their pet dog. And he's going to walk away. They're going to not even slap him on the wrist.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I mean,
hey, Brianna. Hey, Harley.
Oh,
how you doing?
I saw you a dinosaur.
You saw me what with a dinosaur? That probably it's an old photo.
She called you one.
Oh, you called me a dinosaur?
oh.
Oh, them's fighting words. So,
Come at me,
from
girl.
there,
Come at me.
so I pushed away the dinner and I thought, I'm not eating this stuff here.
Yeah, that sounds really gross.
And it was disgusting. And then, of course, the only thing you got to drink was you had to go to the fountain and fill the little Tupperware glass. It looks like it's been through the dishwasher a million times. I don't know how many lips have touched that.
Oh.
And you had to go fill it up at the drinking fountain. And I thought, I hydrated pretty well today. I said I'm not even going to drink the water here. I didn't want to go up to the drink. I didn't even drink water when I was there. I had nothing to drink the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
It was just disgusting. And the cell block was clean, but it was disgusting. Thank you, Brianna. I don't think she caught on. Hi, Brianna. How you doing? How you doing? So there you go.
Sorry, I had to mute the mic for a little bit.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. I just said thank you. Thank you for the pose. So anyway,
Scotty.
Yes, sir, Ruben.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, the only
morning.
time I really spent in jail, if I had to go to jail, was in Wisconsin. Fox Lake. Because I was living in Milwaukee, and by the way, I got in a fight with the door.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah.
Your nose and your eye.
I think the door won.
The door won.
You should see the door. He knocked that door right off its hinges.
Oh, probably. He better watch out. The cops will sit outside his house and come arrest him for beating on a door.
Yeah, disturbing the peace.
Yeah.
So the reason why I went to Fox Lake was because I was working with the American Indian Center in Milwaukee, and me and the old man would run sweat lodge ceremony.
Oh, sure.
And we were able to have it in the Indian Center down by the industrial area in Milwaukee because it's a sacred fire, and they allowed that religiously. So there was a big movement in the prison systems, the correctionals in Wisconsin, for a lot of native and non-native people were wanting sweat lodge. They didn't want a chaplain. They didn't want that. They just wanted something that was spiritual. So we came in. The old man poured the water, and I sang the right songs. So that was pretty interesting. Another time
you got arrested for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we would come in, and they would wand us and pat us down and everything, and then we do ceremony, and then we'd leave.
Right,
just on the weekends. But one time I spent off my reservation, Standing Rock, North and South Dakota, and got incarcerated and was sitting in jail for not for very long, just like a weekend.
Right.
Got into a kind of a bar brawl, but we both got sent in. So anyway. Long story short, I had a mustache, and I'm the only one in my family that can grow goatee and mustache like the handlebars.
I remember those days.
I was in there. You got to wax them. I was in there, and all these young guys are all white guys. I was the only minority, so I just kept to myself. And they give you slop for food, more or less, and water. Pretty much, but they kept, they were afraid of me for some reason. I don't know why, but eventually one of them came up. I sat down cross-legged on the floor, kind of meditating and quiet. And finally, one of them came up to me and they said, "Are you a kung fu master?"
Nice.
Because I had that.
Yeah, because you had the little Fu Manchu looking thing.
There you go. So it was kind of crazy times. Good morning to everybody, Matt.
Yeah. And so it was, hey, Grumpy Stack. Good to see you, Matthew Sainsbury. Good to see you, too. And
yeah, it kind of sounds like the food they serve there is something you wouldn't feed your worst enemy.
Well, it was, I looked at that and I said, is this the stuff you guys have to eat every day? Some of those guys, frankly, had been sitting there for months.
Wow.
There's one guy I felt particularly bad for. And I told him on my way out the door, I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, hey, man, good luck with all this stuff. I don't know what his original, I don't know what his whole story was, but he was picked up for an old warrant. He was a young black man. He had the dreads, all over. And he had let's put it this way, he had the language and the way he spoke very urban black man. And urban, low-income black man is the way he sounded. But there were a couple times he was on the phone. He had to talk officially, and he talked to me, and I was going to say cleaned right up, but he spoke not so ghetto sounding. And that's a racist thing to say nowadays. You can't even say that. Just trying to describe something. And but he was in there for already 3 days at that point. And he had to be transferred to Milwaukee County in Wisconsin. And nobody was doing anything. He was wrestling with people on the phone, trying to find out what was going on. He said, I've been held for 72 hours. I haven't been charged with anything that I know of. He says, I've got to go to Milwaukee County. And now they're not going to do it till after the Labor Day weekend. So not only was he in there 3 days already as of Friday, he had to sit because of the Labor Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, before he hoped to get anybody to come and even pick him up and take him to lockdown in Milwaukee County. And he gave me, just in brief, I don't remember the details and they're unimportant, but it seemed like the kind of stuff that is a lot of these guys, it seemed like things that you take care of by going to the desk and signing a paper. A couple of these guys still had to see a judge, the DWI guys. You make your own bed when you do that. I get that. But this guy, I felt a lot of compassion for him. And I felt bad for him. I said, look, no matter what your circumstances are that originated all of this stuff, I said, I'm sorry you're going through this, and I wish you the best. And I told him on the way out the door, he was sitting on the phone, and I put my hand on his shoulder while I'm carrying my bed mat. And I think I elbowed him on the shoulder, and I said, hey, good luck. And he wished me the same. And so, I don't know, camaraderie among criminals? I don't know what it was. But so once, and my attitude, I always kept my attitude very good. I generally joked around with the guards and stuff like that. And I let them know, okay, this sounds cocky to say it in recounting it. But listen, if you're in that circumstance, this is what I did. I chose to be more articulate than ever. I chose to act intelligently. I chose to act with a cool head. And I chose to act like a critical thinker. And I thought all of these things, and I chose to use a sense of humor in almost everything. So they got a guy that knew how to speak, knew how to look you in the eye. Everybody else I saw, and it wasn't many of them, that would complain to the guards. They were all like, shit, and motherfucker, and this and that. And I'm like, dude, that is not boding well for you. And the guards don't care. They're there to do their job. And I got that part of it. And so I didn't get a tin cup. I got no tin cup, Randall Flagg. So as this all carried through, and the only thing where I got a little irritated and was I know I met with the DA. You got to meet with the DA. So they take you in, they search you again. You got to sit in a little room. I said, why do you have to be searched? I haven't been anywhere. But they frisk you down, and the DA is on the other side of the glass that thick anyway. And the DA says, well, how you doing this morning, Mr. Roberts? And I said, I'm a little more irritable than I was at this time yesterday. I said, but I have good reason for it. And he kind of laughed. Right away, he detected from me a man who knows how to speak, a man who's articulate, a man who uses his language well, a man who's intelligent. That was the first blush with him. He already knew he wasn't dealing with a guy, that was a criminal trying to get out of something. And so, he said, you're going to see the judge. Now, here's the kicker. There was one other thing that irritated me, and I expressed that irritation to the guards. At 6:15 in the morning on Friday, I said, there's phones right in the cell block, 2 computer systems on the wall. You got to punch in your number and a password to use the phone. And I didn't have one. I was able to call Raini the night before from the holding cell where I was private. They gave me just a temporary, just use this. And I used that, and I got to call her a couple of times while I was waiting to go into the cell block. So I'm in the cell block, and I asked the guards. I said, I can't make a phone call. The code I had last night doesn't work. Yeah, we'll get to it. They hang up on you. It's an intercom. We'll get to it. And about an hour later, I hit the intercom and I said, "Hey, Scott Roberts here." I said, "Did you get me that code so I can call my wife?" I said, "I wanted to call her before she got the kids off to school." They didn't care to hear any of that. He goes, "Yeah, we told you we'd get to it." Hung up on me. I hit the intercom right away again, which they hate, I know. And I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last thing you said to me." And he said, I said that we'll get to it. And I said, "Today sometime would be really nice." I said, I'm starting to get irritated by this. And so they hang up the intercom again. I asked 3 times through the course of the day. I got my password and my number to make a phone call. It started at 6:15 in the morning. I got it about 2 in the afternoon. No, it was just before I went to see the judge at 1 o'clock. So about 12:30-ish, somewhere in there. So it took 6 hours to get the desk to get me a code so I could make a phone. And of course I couldn't get through. It said there's no money on the account. I said, "How do I put money on the account?" And I called the guard. I said, "This code you gave me doesn't work. We don't have time right now." So that's the way that went. So now here's the kicker of the whole day, the whole process. Here I am. I'm dressed in orange. I'm wearing underwear that probably 100 other guys in lockdown had worn before me, that had been laundered all that time. And Brianna, you being a woman who's got a husband who wears underwear, you know what happens when you wear your underwear and wash it 100 times? You usually throw it out. Everybody should know that. But so I'm wearing this almost threadbare pair of what once was white boxers and flip-flops and the orange suit. Well, they're going to go take me to the judge now. They had just taken me to the DA, and about a half hour passed, and they'd taken me to see the judge. I get put in leg shackles.
Oh, my God.
A shackle around my waist, handcuffed to the shackles around my waist. And I looked at the guard and I said, "I'm being shackled? Why?" "Oh, it's just procedure." I said, "Well, that's going to make a good impression for the judge." I said, "I show up in orange with shackles." And I said, "I'm sure that makes a good impression on the judge." And I looked at him and we were kind of joking about it a little bit. And I said to the guy, I said, "Oh," I said, "do you have a neck shackle? Could you put a neck shackle on me too and hook the chains up to the wrists?" I said, "I think that would make an even better impression." And he said, and at first he goes, "Well, what good would a neck shackle do?" I said, "Nothing. It's just for good impression." And I said, "As long as you got my legs shackled and my hands cuffed to my waist, why not a neck shackle too?" And to top it all off, it wasn't even a personal appearance. Sat in a room and it was a video conference with the judge. I said, "So you've got me shackled. Why?"
Unreal.
So yeah, I'm not a mass murderer. I wanted a,
Well,
Hannibal
like
Lecter.
Hannibal, like
what's his
Hannibal
name
had
from
that.
Silence of
face
the
mask.
Lambs. I wanted a hockey mask, but to make sure I didn't eat the deputies.
Yeah, he did. Do
So
So
there I
you-
am, and I met
you
with the
were
judge. It
Hannibal-
was about 5 minutes worth. He was a nice older guy, and he's on the video, and he says, "Good afternoon, Mr. Roberts. How are you today?" And I said, "Well," I said, "my usual buoyant, effervescent self is pretty hindered by the fact that I'm wearing orange and I'm leg shackled and cuffed to my waist." I said, "But other than that," I said, "I think I'm damn skippy today." And he kind of chuckled, and he says, "Well, let's get into this." And he read the thing. This is where I find out for the first time, actually, that I am, and I see paperwork, I'm being charged with disorderly conduct for this thing that happened back. I told the story on the radio show back when it happened,
I remember that.
of the woman and her son, and I was about as disorderly as my pinky toe, and at that incident. But this is where he read the charges, disorderly conduct, and you're here today in front of me and in jail because you didn't show up. And I said, "Well, Your Honor," I said, "to be very honest with you," I said, "I'm sure you hear this a million times." I said, I was never notified about this. And I said, just to kind of back that up, I said, if you look at the paperwork, the original paperwork had, Brianna, our address from across the street from you. That's the address they sent the summons to.
Real.
Never got forwarded, never forwarded to me. And I said, Your Honor, I said, I would think in a system like we have nowadays, if that doesn't make it to me by mail, you've got my email address, you've got my phone. Could there have been some other means by which to communicate with me and say, hey, you missed your court date, you've got 72 hours to reset your court date, or we'll come and get you, or something like that. I said, there's not even that. I said, immediately I'm arrested, or there's a warrant put out for me. I'm arrested in front of my children and taken in, and I'm in the situation I'm in now, dressed like I am, cuffed and chained like I am, because I missed a court date I was never told about. And I said, it doesn't really matter to me whether the court did it, you issued paperwork, but if you issued it to the wrong address, I said, as a matter of fact, when this whole incident took place, that wasn't even my address. I said, you would have had my current address. And so I said, can we correct the address now? So the judge had to correct the address. And he said, well, let's get you out of here. And he says, why don't you come back on next Wednesday? Does that work for you? And I said, that's fine. I said, I'd have been here for the first court appearance, Your Honor. I said, if I'd known about it. And I said, additionally, I said, for the record, I said, if I knew I had a warrant hanging over my head, would I have called the police to my house to check out that car in my front yard? Oh, you got a warrant out for me, but just come and look at that car. And I said, and a few weeks before that, I called the police because somebody had run over a cat, and I'm sure the cat died, but the cat, half of its body was mangled and it crawled under our car. We called, the pound, or the pet, whatever you call them now, animal, and a cop came out, and we stood and talked to my driver. And that was about 4 weeks ago. Nobody said anything then about a warrant. Nobody said anything so I said, would I be calling the police to my house on 2 different occasions if I'm a wanted man? I said, just logic, common sense. And I said, there needs to be a better way. You're not going to resolve that today. I said, I needed to say it. He said, okay, I appreciate that. And on it went. By the way, when I got Raini on the phone the first night I was there, when I was alone in the holding cell, and it echoes, you go, hello, 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 hello. It just bouncing off all the walls. Like Harley's doing right there, bouncing off mom and the walls. And I'm talking to Raini. I don't have her on speaker. You could hear her. And I'm sure the guards all heard her because they're all monitoring. It's bouncing off the walls. Raini, you all know Raini. Brianna, you know Raini very well and personally. Raini was not happy. She was livid. And she was already talking lawsuit. She wanted to get do you know how to get a hold of that lawyer friend of yours online? And I said, I don't. You're going to have to look through my messages. And I said, I don't have my phone, or I'd give you his number. And so she was not a happy person. And she was letting it all loose right there on the phone. And not against me. It was all in support of me. But man, was she angry. And she still is. And at the system, the way it worked on this. And so so that went on, and it was echoing. I had to pull the phone away from my ear, and it was just echoing in that room, Raini talking. And I said to the guard afterward, I said, you think I'm bad? I said, you wouldn't want to have my wife in here. And he laughed. But anyway, so I was released, and I would love to have a conversation with the cop. Which he's neighborhood cop. I'll probably run into him. I'll probably see him, but I want to tell him, you told me I'd have to go in and sign a paper. I'm very disappointed in your actions in this whole thing. And as a citizen and as a friendly guy who supports the police, I just want to let you know that this whole thing that got filed in the first place, dumb. The fact that you had to take me in front of my kids over something I was never notified of, dumber. I could have. I want to tell him, you know who I am. You've seen me many times. You know our affiliation with the Scouts. You know us in the neighborhood. And I said, yet you felt it was necessary to take me in on a Thursday before a holiday weekend, after the court was already shut down for the day, and tell me all I had to go and do was sign a piece of paper. When you could have just said, I remember even at the time I said, well, can't I just go in tomorrow morning, Friday? I can go into the office and sign a paper. He goes, well, if I did that for you, I'd have to do it for everybody. How many times have we heard that line misused over the years? And I'm like, I don't care about everybody else. I said, aren't you here to enforce? You're here to enforce the law. And I said, don't tell me that you don't have to interpret the law at times. You have to interpret what's going on. Am I going to arrest this guy? Am I going to put this woman in cuffs? Am I going to do that? Am I going to do this? So you have to make judgment calls every day. I said, if I tell you I'll show up tomorrow at 10 a.m. and go sign a paper, I'll do it. I said, I'd have shown up for court if I'd have known he was there. So, but that makes no. And so I think what bothered me the most about this was being taken into jail, strip search. To me, I'm a pretty big boy. I wear my big boy pants unless I'm put into somebody's 1,000-time washed underwear, and an orange suit. But I'm a pretty big boy. I wear my big boy pants. I can handle myself. I operate under common sense and politeness and professionalism. And Steph, I would say that, except he was always a nice guy. This guy, we've known this cop. He's a nice guy. We're not like intimate buddies, but we've known him. We've seen him in social settings. And so I trusted what he said. I trusted him when he said, I got to take you in, and, I won't cuff you. You're not a problem, and you'll be out of here. You'll be back home after you sign a paper. I had to sit overnight. So the thing of it was the indignity of it, the being lumped in with people who actually were criminals, and it's a no discretion made between who did what. I could have been in there with a guy that capped a guy in the head, and he's waiting for his trial date. And here I am, a guy that missed a hearing that I didn't know existed. And I'm in with the same group of people. And I will say this, I already mentioned it once, a lot of compassion for a lot of these guys sitting in there. So a lot of them were in situations where they've been away from their families. They've been away from, and they're waiting on one guy had been in there he said he's been back and forth between this and another holding thing for over a year. And they were all casual. And then this was the guy that was talking to me about the Nephilim and all of that stuff and UFOs and all that. And they're all sitting there. And I think, why are they holding you here? Are they afraid you're a flight risk and you won't show up for court? Or one guy said, yeah, it was my DWI. And he obviously had a lot of other DWIs. But he says, it's been 16 years since I've had a drink and since my last DWI. And he said, I got pulled over and I got brought in for a DWI. And he said, I've got a $5,000 bond and I couldn't pay. And there was no bail bondsman where he was or something. And they were all complaining about, hey, here in Wisconsin, this side of the river, there's no bail bondsman. You can't find one anywhere. So you're sitting, a lot of these guys, they didn't have cash to pay. This one guy had been in there for 4 months because he didn't have $750 to pay his bail. And had nobody to go do that for him. So I felt some compassion for these guys. Guys with DWIs, I go, hey, dude, I've driven under the influence in my lifetime. But obviously you got to be careful of that stuff. Oh, I see, Brianna, you wrote a bunch of stuff here. I didn't see. You can just jump in anytime you want if you want to talk, Brianna. They can't guarantee anything when they're arresting you, and anytime someone gets arrested after 3 p.m., they most likely won't see the judge until the next day. Either way, says Brianna. They can't guarantee. Yeah, and exactly.
The system is broke. We need to get
It is.
legislatures working on this stuff. Like I said, we had a guy, and there's a young one, but what I said he put it in a garbage bag, threw it on a neighbor's lawn, and walked away. And he gets nothing. We have another neighbor just got charged with his second offense for first-degree domestic assault. He's out on the street less than an hour after he's arrested. And it's just, it's bull. The system is broke.
Yes, it is. And it does no good when you're in there to complain about it.
Yeah.
Nobody's there to listen to that or do anything about it. And what would it take to make change? You've got to make it a personal agenda, a personal project. To pursue something to change that.
You'd have to hound your legislatures and your senators and all that. And
right.
Yeah. I mean,
well, here's the question,
like I said, if you'd been in Vermont, you would have got slapped on the hand. You would have been taken to our a local police station, sign a paper, and send you home. But because you're in a different state, you spend overnight in jail. It's messed up.
Well, it's like my old late aunt used to say. They were, admittedly, this is my wonderful, loving aunt that I loved. She was 10 years older than I am, and she died back in 95 of complications from being, what we didn't know, a meth user. And it was back then, almost 30 years ago, we weren't as aware of that stuff as we are now. Yep. But she was an alcoholic, and she was a witch. She into ghosts, and all the neighborhood teen kids always came to her house, and she was always this great person. But she used to say, and it's cliche, but she used to say back then, the first I heard it was from her, was she said, Scotty, I'm going to tell you something. The smaller the crime, the greater the time.
Yep.
And which is true, because you'll see guys that do heinous crimes. Well, maybe not of the heinous level, but serious crimes. They'll spend a couple of days and they'll be out. You got guys that'll take street meth and get arrested, and they'll be in jail for a year.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that, or selling pot, which I found out in my cell block from my jail mates. I found out that Minnesota, I didn't even know this, Minnesota is all totally legal for marijuana now. They said you can have 2 pounds of marijuana and not get arrested.
Wow.
And
I mean, that's like I said,
what you got there? Is that your whipping stick, Brianna? That keeps John in order.
You have a joint in your pocket, and you spend 6 months in jail. You kill somebody, and you spend less than an hour. It's messed up. Like I said, we have a prison down the road from us, and that's what this lovely town's noted for now. And everybody hates it because they were supposed to do this, that, and everything else, and now it's brought in all the riffraff.
Yeah.
But like I said, you spent overnight in jail. This guy choked this woman, beat the crap out of her, almost put her in the hospital. He was in jail less than an hour.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
And this other guy that did that to his animal, they've got it on video. They've got it. They've witnessed it. They all wrote statements. They were supposed to come back in an hour and check on his child because he has a young child, because they're concerned. They never came back. He'll never face any charges for that.
Matthew Sainsbury brings up something historical, which has nothing to do with my case. I in no way would compare what happened to me to what happened to Crazy Horse. But he mentioned that he was promised that he'd be able to meet with the captain at Fort Robinson, Nebraska, but they betrayed him, trying to detain him, and he resisted, and he was killed.
It's true, and thank you, Matthew, for bringing that up, and Scotty and Caroline and Brianne. But also the fact of that matter was, in the sense of he was detained for his protection in Fort Robinson. I've been to Fort Robinson. I've done tours down there. And long story short, he was detained for his own protection. But the guy, and 2 of his people of his own kind didn't help as well. They tried to hold him down because he was fighting, because he didn't have the idea of like in Australia and in New Zealand, many people that are indigenous don't know how long they're going to be there. They're thinking they're
Right.
locking me up forever. So
It was a system of jurisprudence and governance that they were unfamiliar with.
So, long story short again, so the guy that was behind him, the soldier, was a young soldier. He was just
Do I get one?
green. He was green. And he accidentally stabbed him in the back with the bayonet. And so he died from that complication. So it's interesting, Matthew, you bring that up.
Those are my
with-
Christmas cookies.
With
Sorry.
Native American people,
This one, that's my present Christmas.
I'll do 2 of these.
the two
Will you go put
largest cities in America that have a lot of Native Americans, more than any other minority, that you'll see more of a Native American person walking down the street
a milk
than a black person or Latinos? Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Okay.
and Rapid City, South Dakota. And 35 years ago, when I was in high school, it was really a rough place. The police force was not good shape, and they targeted a lot of Native American people.
Right.
Of course, alcohol, drug, and things like that, like in any community, stick out. So I got a DUI in Rapid City about 9-10 years ago, and I have no priors, nothing ever. I never committed a crime of any kind, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But I had drunk the night before. And
You were a drunken Indian.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
When I woke up, I was still kind of rum-dum. You're not fully there. So, but I had to run to the market and get some toast and eggs.
The rum.
So I went to the store and I came back and it was raining. It was a cold Saturday morning in autumn. And I put my tracksuit on and then I wore flip-flops and went out.
Yep.
But where I parked, where I lived, it's on the main street and one of the main thoroughways, and I had to wait. So across the plaza was a salon, casino type thing, and I just parked in the parking lot, waiting for someone to pop out, and then I can pull in and park in front of my house. And lo and behold, it was nice and warm in the car, and I was still kind of rum-dum. I fell asleep.
Oh,
I fell asleep with the key. The car was on. And so
there's your DWI.
There it is. You don't have to be moving.
By the way, I have to interject here. Ellery just made cookies upstairs. You can see the wonderful shapes she made. And I think they're chocolate chip or they're macadamia. And so she made cookies. It made me think of my son-in-law, Zach. He's married to Bryn. And he wrote me. We don't communicate a lot, he and I. We say hi whenever I'm talking to Bryn. Just no reason. We're both busy. We don't talk all that much online. And he sent me a message while I was in jail and said something about, hey, you jailbird. And he says, if you so happen to get a cake that I baked, he says, there's a file inside. So, and then he wrote me when I was out. He says, glad to hear you're out. He says, oh, you're reformed now and everything, I'll bet. And I said, no recidivism here.
So did you get your cake?
I didn't get the cake. I told my response to him was, yeah, I got that cake in jail. I said, but the man who was trying to make me his bitch got it first. So
with that, and to end my story, the DUI, I went to court, and my sister was a nurse, and she had gotten one before, but she said you have no priors, so South Dakota law lets you like a slap on the wrist. If you tell them that your occupation, I was a school teacher, I needed to be in school, I couldn't be going to jail.
Hold on.
I got bonded out, so I was okay, but I stood in front of the judge, told him there's a term that if you don't have any priors.
This one's for Doug, by the way. Grumpy Stack, this is your cookie.
If you don't have any priors, you can get away with it. So I got away with it. I didn't get a DUI, but the judge said if you ever get a DUI, you're going to get 2. You're going to hit twice. So I don't drive anymore. I just drive 2, get something, go home, and sit still, or even at the pubs or bars or whatever. But with the police force, back in those days, 20, 30 years ago, it was pretty intense for Native Americans because we were the minority of the minorities there. But I used to work the street corner and play flute on weekends in the summer. And the police would come down on their bikes, officers, and they would say to me, "Ho, ho, Ruben, dokashke yo unho." Hello, Ruben, how are you? In my language.
Mm.
What
Wow.
they were doing, they were
Oh.
reforming themselves, the police force in Rapid City, because in order to be a policeman there, you have to be prepared with dealing with Native
Sure.
American people.
Hi.
And what they do is they take you on a tour in a charter bus to the different reservations, and then to introduce you to the culture. You have the food, the people. They teach you a little bit of the language, so it's not so complicated. So the police force has gotten better in that sense. With
Sorry,
all
folks. Keep talking.
with all these shootings
No.
going on of
Not that I can
minorities
think
that we see,
I don't have any more.
I have to admit that
Doesn't
the
need it yet.
police force is
There's
trying.
Brianna
Is
and
trying.
Harley.
That's a good thing. I like hearing that.
We'll talk when I'm off.
The local ones we
About
have
half an
here,
hour.
we had a couple really bad apples on there, and let me tell you, they were a nightmare to deal with. I'd sit on my porch, I'd drink a beer, my neighbor would call the cops, they'd come up, harass the shit out of me. Needless to say, they finally got totally decertified. Neither of them will be a cop again
Right.
because of the numerous complaints. But last
Well-
night we had 6 cops up here. One came in his own personal vehicle because they couldn't put the evidence in the car because
Talk
was
to Mom about that.
it'd been to the point of really bad
I'll be up in
smelling.
half an hour.
And they were like, it's like, you guys are totally different than you were 6 months ago. I mean, you guys are friendly, you're polite, you're not giving us all attitude like we used to get. So they're trying.
Mm-hmm.
They're really trying, and it's getting better. And I like hearing what you said about them learning your language and stuff, because it's,
Yeah,
it shows respect.
it
Thank
does.
you, Charlie, and thank you, Matthew, for bringing that up as well.
So, all in all, I make no comparison by what happened to me to what happens to Ruben and his people. Anything like that historically. No comparison. The only comparison to be made, if there is any, no matter what the crime might be or how misdemeanorish it might be, the only comparison to be made is that many times laws and regulations that are put into place by the government that is over us are not always fair across the board. And in my situation, minorest of minor things, but I was treated equally to the guy that committed a crime. And there has to be a way to measure those things out a little better. This guy doesn't need to go in a cell block with those guys. But again, at intake, they're not there to judge your case or try your case. And the way they cover that up is they say, well, you're all just in here for intake. You all have to appear before a judge. You're all on equal ground here. Well, that's not necessarily the case. What gets you there? So, anyway, that's it. That's my story I wanted to tell.
Scotty,
yeah.
I totally agree with you in the sense of, and Carlene as well, in the sense of it's all about attitude.
Yeah.
When I sat in jail, I conducted myself very much like you did: intelligent, polite, listened, guards and inmates. I didn't fly off the handle. Stay calm. Go through and show that you're not freaking out or raising hell and making it worse for yourself. So it's all about attitude, I believe, and I think that you conduct yourself that way, you're going to make it through.
Elderberry, you bring that song up. I
love that song.
Mentioned that song to my kids. We were talking about.
I was listening to that yesterday, as a matter of fact.
I think it was Rowan. We were riding in the car, and we were talking about that song and injustices and so on. So,
yeah.
Okay, now say it.
Yeah, it's
Harley,
you know,
you are a handful this morning, huh?
yeah. She's
Oh,
bouncy today.
careful
That
with
was
your.
not nice.
I'd
What did
like
you
to have
say?
half of her energy.
I did not understand what you said.
She called you a butt head and then called you a tootie butt.
What? What, you little double tootie butter? Wait till I see you. You're
Uh-oh.
in trouble. I'm going to get you,
Tootie
you little
All
tootie butt.
done.
You have
Tootie butt.
no idea how tootie my butt can be.
Tell Scotty you started 4K on Friday.
I started working on Friday.
Whatever you're saying, I
Could-
say it right back to
Could
you.
I have some of your energy?
She started 4K on Friday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ouch.
4K?
Yeah.
Nice. Ellery is in 3rd grade this year, and Rowan is in 5th grade, and Flynn is in 7th grade.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, my grandson is in her 2nd year of high school. I'm like, oh, this doesn't seem possible.
I know. I posted some pictures of Flynn at his first football game. He's
Oh,
on
yeah, I
some
saw those.
in
Yep.
Football. He's not sure if he likes it yet. Flynn is a track guy, track and field. He's always taking first place. He's got that
Yep.
little tall, lean, muscularity about him, and he's built for that stuff. And it's a singular sport.
Yeah.
He's now on football, and his friend talked him into joining football with him. And he goes, Dad, I don't even know how to play the game. And I said, you'll learn. They'll teach you. I said, we can sit down. We'll watch some games. I said, we can look up online. How do you play football? I said, there's ways to learn.
Yep.
But Flynn would be a great running back because he's got speed and agility. He's not going to be a nose tackle. That's for sure. He's not built for that. I said, but as a running back, even as a running back, so you got to be prepared to get hit. So, but I think he'll enjoy it as he gets more into it. And if he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to do it. I'm not you're going to stay in football and you're going to be my football star. That's your scholarship, son. You get a scholarship.
And you'll like it.
He could be a quarterback because he's agile. He's quick thinking. He's got smarts. He can run fast. He could be a quarterback. He's built like a quarterback. And he's built like, who are some of your famous running backs or wide receivers, long receivers? Who am I thinking of on the Vikings?
I don't watch enough football to know.
Now I can't. The names are gone from me at the moment. But yeah, he's built like a quarterback or a safety, says Grumpy Stack. Yep. You're too tall to be a running back. Yeah, maybe so. He's only about 5'7" right now. He's taller than Rainey now. I know that. She's 5'7". So slightly taller than Rainey. And as even Brianna commented on his picture, she goes, whoa, that's not Flynn. And you know what? We haven't been neighbors for 2 years, and we've been together. We've met up a couple, 3 times, but we talk a lot. They've been on the show. They don't see our kids every day anymore. I look at Harley. Harley was 2 years old the last time I saw her, I think, 2 or 3. And now she's a squirrely, 4K kid. So, and I will tell you what, Brianna, you probably already are aware of this. Soak them up at that age because they're going to be smarmy teenagers pretty soon.
Yeah.
You brought me the biggest cookie.
All right.
Ruben, that horse thing on your wall behind you keeps getting my attention.
Thank you.
All right. Say bye quick.
That is cool.
Bye, Harley. Bye, Brianna. Love
Bye.
you. Love you, John.
Love you. He's sleeping.
Oh, he's still there. He hasn't said hi, and he's right there next to you.
He's sleeping.
Oh, he's sleeping. John! Wake up!
We're gonna go make some breakfast.
You go make some breakfast.
Take care.
You guys have a fun day. Good to see you. Let's get
Good to
together
see
soon.
you.
I miss you guys.
Yeah.
She needs to go on the trampoline.
All right.
So Carlene,
Yes.
these are called horse dance sticks.
Okay.
They were using them in a horse dance, and the men would dance with them. So it's kind of like a wand, magic wand in that way.
Oh, yep.
But yeah,
I figured it had some significance. I grew up with my grandparents pretty much, and they had horses, and we're all into that, and so that's why it got my attention. But it's really cool.
yeah, thanks. You know, and talking about track again with Flynn, I did cross country in the fall, basketball in the winter, and then I did track in the summer, springtime, and I placed fairly decent in the top 10 in South Dakota. Different races, track and cross country. It's wonderful. It's a lot like wrestling because it's an individual sport.
Yes.
It's you or swimming.
Yes.
Or for that matter. So it's
You have a
highly
team,
respected.
but it's an individual thing.
It's a powerful thing psychologically. I loved it, and I put myself through. When you get in the top 10, colleges start hunting you. And so I got into Notre Dame in Indiana, South Bend, but there was no, for that time in the 90, 90, there were no Native American students there and no club. So it was too far away for me. So I stayed locally in the Black Hills. But so what I did was my senior year, I got picked for a triathlon in Hawaii, of all places.
Wow.
Where it's burning. You know, it's really sad to see. So it was a 2-week camp, and then you train. It's called a sprint triathlon. And the sprint triathlon was 800-meter half-mile swim, 30K bike ride, 10K run.
Oof.
And I'm a runner, so first time I dove in the ocean, and I trained in Shatter, Nebraska at an Olympic-sized swimming pool, closest place, 30 minutes away from the res. And I
keep talking, Ruben. I can hear you from the other room.
Yep. So I was swimming, and but it's very different when you swim in the ocean. And being a South Dakota boy in the Badlands, you know, prairie, I dove in like this the first time in the ocean. So I got a mouthful of salt water.
Yep.
So they let the boys run, they shoot the gun, and then they all run in. All you're wearing is a Speedo, a helmet, and halter top, and then you got markings on your shoulder. So I came in last out of the swimming because I wasn't a great swimmer. And then I got on the bike, and like I said, it just had a Speedo and a halter top. And I took a hairpin turn, and the bike slid underneath me. And it just went flat. So I remember my left knee getting grazed, road rash. My hip had some pebble, still has pebble in it today. My left nipple almost got rubbed off.
Ow.
Ouch.
That right there had a sphincter factor of about 9.4.
I was going to say that. Yeah, I could feel that pain.
So I was dragging my head against the road, and I got a big old rash here, and then I could hear my helmet dragging. I got back up, and I thought, well, I've come this far. Nothing's broken. The bike is still good. So I took off and went on. So out of 170 participants, male and female, I came in 40. Had the run been longer, I was kicking ass and running because they were great swimmers. They were California boys, bicyclists. They're all great in that. I wasn't, but I could run. And, I got funding from, I don't know if you know who it is. His name is Billy Mills.
I know the name.
He is a 1964 gold medal winner.
That's why
in the 10,000 meter run. He's the last American, and he's the only Native American. He's Lakota. He's the only one. Billy Mills, he still comes out to the res and helps out. He has a nonprofit called Running Strong for American Indian Youth. So he got me a bike and helped me out in that way. So I stayed with him and got to run with him. But people don't know that he did a marathon even after he won the gold medal. He came in ninth place.
Wow.
he didn't stay on anymore because he said that's when the door was set, or the show was set, or the episode was set for the Kenyans to come in, and they started to.
Yeah.
You see Kenyans running marathons. They're barefoot sometimes. They're just amazing.
Yeah. They come in and you might as well hang it up if they're there, because they're gonna run circles around you.
But yes,
Helene,
it's-
I used to talk about that particular issue a lot. Quotas, numbers for paychecks, no matter what you did or didn't do. I think that exists. I have friends who are cops that would vehemently deny this.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Get rather incensed by the notion that somebody would insist that he did things out of quota. But you do know, I mean, it's obvious there are certain things. And if there's a cop out there who wants to call in and talk about this for a minute, it seems to me as you start approaching the end of the month,
You see them out a whole lot
there's a lot
more.
more speed traps.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stopping of cars. And it's like, what's the date? Oh, it's the 29th of the month.
Mhm.
I think I'll wait till Monday to go over there.
Yeah.
You know,
You gotta
And,
read a quota. A quota.
yeah, a quota.
Yeah, I mean, we got a scanner, and I'll tell you, it'll be kind of quiet through a
Yep.
couple weeks of the month, but towards the end of the month, you'll hear. I said we're right off a main road, and we'll see the blue lights, and it's like, yeah, that's the end of the month again, because they'll pull one right after another over.
And
But the
how
rest
can-
of the time, they're going through town 60 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, right by the police station.
I want to ask everybody, how does justice have a quota? It shouldn't have a quota. Justice
No.
isn't determined by the numbers. It's determined by what is right and what is wrong. So it's not justice that's seeking quotas. It's systems that involve money. It all comes back to dollars. It all comes back, or pounds, as in Helene's case. It all comes back to where the money is being made. And I heard, again, 20 years ago, when I did 17 hours in a holding cell in Hennepin County over a 7-year-old at that point, a 7-year-old parking ticket that was unpaid, that amounted to $138. You know that the jail says, I was told that I wasn't allowed to do anything, not officially, but who people in the know said the reason you were held for 17 hours back then was because they have to have you a certain number of hours in order to get the funding for you for that day. And so I needed to be kept a certain number of hours. And I think it's the number 11 sticks in my mind. You had to be there 11 hours or more in order for them to get funded. If they release you after an hour and a half, they don't get anything. Now, I don't know how that all works. I don't know the inner workings of it. Again, that all by itself is a singular issue that somebody would have to look into. You know what came to mind was the movie. Do you remember this old movie? It came out in either the late 70s or the early 80s. I remember going to see it in the movie theater with a buddy of mine. Brubaker with Robert Redford. He was a guy that was in prison, and he was this southern prison. And what it turns out through the movie is that he is actually a warden. He's either I can't remember the plot. He was either the new warden for this place or somebody in the government. I think he was the new warden who came in undercover as a criminal to check out what was going on in this prison system because of all the stories that have been told. And he went through the mistreatment. He went through, of course, the drama is, am I going to get out of this before I'm dead? And it comes out that I think he's the new warden. Go look up that movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Robert Redford in Brubaker was the name. Brubaker, I think. And,
I didn't remember the name, but I have seen the movie where he goes in and it's like, oh my God, it's yeah.
So, but that came to mind while I was sitting in jail. I thought, who's profiting by me having to sit here overnight for such an inane, banal, non-dumb
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
And the dumb thing was about it, as I stated already, I was never notified. Why was I never notified? They had the wrong address. They sent out a letter, but while they also had my email and my phone, there was never a follow-up to say, hey, you missed this court date. You obviously didn't get our letter, or you may have missed our letter. Here, let us text this to you. I get text messages for everything, unofficial things. My doctor's appointments, I get text messages. My politics, I get text messages. I get text messages all the time. If the court system set up, hey, we're going to use your phone, you're also going to be notified for your phone. A reminder of your court date, or if you missed it, hey, here is, you missed your court date. You've got 5 days, 5 business days to reschedule before a warrant is issued for your arrest. Why isn't that done? Would that not then prevent a lot of people from spending a night or 2 or 3 in jail? You better take care of this. No, the system, it seems to be built around, well, if you don't get notified, that's not our fault. And we'll pick you up and we'll make money on you being in our system.
Yeah.
And this thing, as I'll repeat for any latecomers, was something I was never notified of. I never got a notice of a summons. And it was for that incident I talked about on the radio show. I think Sarah came in late about confronting a mom in the park over her 5th grade boy beating up my second grade daughter. And she went ballistic, and I left the scene of that. We've got videos of it all, but that's what I have to go to court for. Disturbance of the peace, or what they call it, disorderly conduct. And I remember telling the cop my behavior was anything but disorderly. I was very orderly about that. Well, people were around you and saw it. I said, well, 5 or 6 people were around us in a parking lot, while 200 people were over there watching a baseball game.
Yeah.
And I can't talk much about it. I don't know how much I can or can't talk about it. And I don't know if it's a trial or if it's because they asked me if I wanted a lawyer. I said, the judge yesterday or Friday. I said, do I need a lawyer? I said, it seemed to me that this is a rather simple, and I said, pardon me for saying this, Your Honor. I said, almost a silly thing I have to respond to. I said, do I just have to go in? Is it like going in for a traffic ticket? Or is this like a trial, disorderly conduct? I need a lawyer now. I said, I think I can defend myself. I said, but maybe I should consult with my attorney before I do that. And he said, that's what I have to go in on Wednesday for. I have to go back in on Wednesday to let the judge know whether or not I'm going to defend myself or
whether you have a
hire
lawyer.
an attorney. And then they schedule the court date. So it's like more trips doing the same thing over and over again. And in this technological age, you think there'd be an easier, better way. And by the way, may I say this about my particular case? When I was arrested for not appearing to a court appearance before a judge that I didn't know about, when I was arrested for that, they sent out 3 squad cars to pick me up.
Wow.
I had made the call to say, could you come and check out this car that's sitting in front of our house that my daughters are a little nervous about, blacked out windows, a white pickup truck. And so we called the police to come and could you just drive by and see, because we don't recognize the car. It's never been in the neighborhood before, etc. And so they came out. I called them. I went out on the driveway to talk to the cops. And when I find out there's a warrant for my arrest for not appearing up in court.
Unreal.
So for those of you who missed that at the beginning. And so, but what I noticed is when the 2 cops came up, they had 2 squad cars that had pulled up, which I thought that's fairly normal. They don't know what they're going to face. As these 2 cops are standing in the driveway talking with me, a 3rd cop I see coming from behind the tree, walking down the road, and he's looking. And I'm like, there's a 3rd squad car. What do you got 3 cars here for to arrest me? Because that's what they're used to, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So here's the point I made. And I said to the cop, I said, the court system doesn't have the funding or the money or the time or the energy or the wherewithal to shoot me a quick email or a text message from the system that says,
Yep.
you missed your date, you need to reschedule before you get in trouble. But they have enough money to send 3 squad cars out to arrest me for it? I said,
Boy, you're really a dangerous character.
what did the county pay to
Oh,
have
yeah.
3 cops? Well, maybe nothing extra. Maybe they're all hourly wage or salaried, whatever. It doesn't cost any extra. But what didn't get tended to because 3 squad cars had to come to my house in little Podunk, Somerset. Maybe there's nothing else going on in Somerset. I don't know. But literally, my town is about a half a block long. And if you go another 2 residential blocks down the main street, there's a hardware store and a gas station and a liquor store. That's
Yeah, I was gonna say, can't forget the liquor store.
and then it's all residential and farming.
Yeah.
So Somerset, is there? Maybe there wasn't that much to do that day. Is that procedure? You send 3 squad cars out to pick up a guy. You know who the guy is. I'm not a criminal. They know my wife is a scout leader. They know my kids. I have 3 children. I'm in a not a big house, but a bigger house than most of the houses in this neighborhood, with a nice yard that's kept nice. And it's all those things that are the picture of I'm around. Everybody around here knows my face. Like I say, when the initial thing where I was disturbing the peace or being disorderly, talking to the mom about her kid beating up my little girl, somebody walked up to me. I didn't even know who this person was. And they said, quote, Mr. Roberts, just walk away from this. So somebody knew who I was in my neighborhood. That's the kind of town we live in. I didn't know this person, but that person knew me. And Mr. Roberts, just walk away from this. Walk away. I go, and I patted him on the shoulder and said, you're right. I'm going to walk away. And I walked away. And that's all on video. And but all that to say, I'm in a neighborhood and a town where people know each other. It's not Mayberry RFD by any stretch of the imagination, but it's, the next best thing, and so I've made a point of getting to know people. I don't know everybody, and not everybody knows me, but there it is. So, and I even copied some of the guys in the Scouts, the men in the Scouts, on this show this time, because I wanted them to come in and see, because it's already one of our, the women that Raini knows from Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts, one of the moms, she called Raini when I was in jail and said, I was driving by your neighborhood and I saw cops all over the place and Scotty out on the driveway. What happened? So it's already, everybody already knows. And we're in a small town. So
yeah. Like I said, last night we had the 6 guys here, and I had neighbors up around like, what's going on? What's going on? It's like, oh, well, that's what happened. You can't, and the odd part is, Scotty, that I don't get is, I understand when you dealt with this guy on Scouts and stuff, he was an off-duty officer. He had no friggin' clue before that.
Well, apparently not, because when he was called by dispatch to go check out this car, they said, by the way, the guy who called it in, there's a warrant for his arrest.
Wow.
So
that's just plain breakdown in the system.
Right.
I mean, I know what it's like. I had a car accident in 2012. The cop came on the scene. I told him, my license is not accurate. This is not my address. This is my address. He wrote it down. He sent me a ticket for going too fast. I was doing 68 in a 60-mile-an-hour zone. So I got a ticket. For over a year, I had no clue I had the ticket. I went to change. I'd moved to New Hampshire. I went to change my license, and they said, we can't give you a license because your license is suspended. I'm like, what? I called Vermont. I said, what the heck's going on? Yeah, you didn't pay your ticket. It was suspended. I says, I was going through a divorce. It was domestic violence.
And
I told the cop it wasn't there.
I'm going to cut you off right there, because this is exactly what they would do. They would cut you off. They'd go, I don't need to hear any of that. It's just, to them, it's all black and white.
Yep.
Even when I was
got,
talking to the judge,
Yep.
the judge was like, he smiled and he put his hand up like,
Yep.
I don't need to hear all of that. And I said, I know, Your Honor, you hear a million of these stories
Yep.
every day and it wastes your time. I said, but I need to say it.
Yep.
So that's why I'm saying
Yep.
it.
I got lucky because I would have had to pay big fines. No chance of getting arrested. I would have had to pay extra money because it was a suspended license because I didn't pay my ticket. They went back into the guy's records and says, okay, hey, she told you with a broken nose, blood coming from everywhere, that this was her address and you still sent it here. They waived all the fines.
Sure.
But I'm like, yeah, if you don't have stuff in it, it's like, what was so difficult? Like you said, changing the address, making a phone call. They had my phone number.
Well, and here's the whole thing that I'm talking about is that the system could, and again, I'm saying this from the standpoint of somebody who I have no desire to go out and change the system. I don't have a desire to put all my weight behind that because I'm doing other things. I got other things to do, but to maybe write an editorial for the paper, I do that. To talk about it on my show here, I do that because there needs to be a better way. There needs to be a way where, yes, you have to make sure you get the criminals. I get that. But there's that whole question of how many people, it's like a death row thing. That's a totally different thing, but the same kind of argument. Do you let somebody die who is innocent on death row in order to get all the criminals? Or do you do the inverse? Do you say some criminals aren't going to get what they deserve, so the innocent person doesn't get caught up in that system? I would rather see guys that do bad things get away with them than innocent people being pulled into something, or semi-innocent people who have no business being in that system. The problem we have is the system is not set up to divide between the two or three or four or five, whatever categories they are. I think it would be real easy to have categorized what I did, missing a court date. Do you put them in with the same pool of people who are DWIs?
You shouldn't.
You put them in with the same pool of people that are drug-related crimes or weapons-related or abuse-related? No. Do you have categories? Well, then they would say, we don't have the space or the time to do that.
Yeah.
And I'd say, then you don't arrest them. You go, what's this guy's crime? You give him a warning. Hey, dude, you got to call the courthouse, or it will be slipped into a category of you've ignored, you either didn't show up for your hearing and now you've ignored a warning. Then it's a category where we got to come and get you.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to use the manpower to arrest them, why not use the manpower to let them know, hey, you've got to show up.
Yeah.
And
the problem is so many people have said, oh, yeah, we'll show up. And then they skip, and God knows they're chasing them for 6 months to a year.
Right.
If they ever find them.
I got a few minutes left here. Carlene, I'm going to let you go. You have a good day.
I gotta go get ready. We got company coming. I was like, oh, my God.
Go have fun.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Bye.
We'll see you later. Hey. Ruben, good to talk to you. I know this isn't the topic. We normally kind of talk about this stuff, but it's good to see you as always.
In leaving and parting with you, Chia, I want to say that I liked what you said about the justice. And the first thing that came in my head is a lot of us don't know the judicial system.
Right.
And fly under the radar and guys get away with stuff. I was thinking of the image of Justice, the statue, where Justice is blind. Her eyes are covered, and she's holding the scales of good and bad and whatnot, and how.
Well, here, the thing about that, she might be blind. Justice is blind, meaning equal, but she has a scale.
Yes.
And that scale should, like you just said, that scale should be, what is it? What's the crime? What are we arresting you for? There's a balance that needs to be met. The balance is not met. Well, let's just arrest them all, throw them all in a tank and figure it out from there. Yeah, exactly. So
No, thank you so much.
Thank you, Misu. Good to
Yeah,
see
be
you
well.
today.
Take care. You and yours.
I will, and you too. And by the way, now that I'm doing tattooing and I'm working on that, I'm going to get my my son or something. I've got to see what the sun, SUN, like you have, something like that. I'm going to have put on my hand
Yes.
because of the stories you tell of the Milky Way. And
Oh, yes.
I thought, I don't know if I believe that's what's actually going to happen, but I thought that would be kind of neat. I would like to do that. So we'll see. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. Maybe I'll get something that will commemorate my becoming part of your family.
Symbolic.
And,
there
some
you
things
go.
like that. Symbolic, yes. So,
Awesome.
all right.
Be
I'll
well.
talk to you later, Miso. I love you.
Yeah,
Talk
love
to you
you too.
soon.
You and yours. Take care. Be well.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That's pretty much it. That was the story I wanted to tell today, and I've told it. You can do with that story what you wish. I hope I didn't come across overly self-serving. I hope you don't listen to this and go, God, is he full of bullshit? I hope you don't listen and go, wow. There's any extremes. Just this is a story. This is what happened to me. Um, I was in jail for 24 hours. And it was dumb. It was all dumb. It was all for a dumb reason. It was all done for something I was never notified about and given no opportunity to make good on what I was never informed about before I was thrown in jail for a day and submitted to strip searches, wearing underwear that's been worn by at least 100 different criminals and laundered at least 100 different times, wearing the orange suit, being leg shackled and having my hands cuffed to my waist to appear before a judge in a room that was a video hearing, because that's procedure. While every other time, they open the door, they go, come on out, let's go take you up here to get, they don't shackle you for that, but they shackle you to seat you in front of a judge in a room. Those kinds of things were very bothersome to me. It was bothersome to me that I was away from my family for 24 hours. It was bothersome to me that it was something I had to talk to my children about. Why did my children witness me being arrested? It was something that was bothersome on many different levels. When all the court needed to do, when I didn't appear for that first court appearance, was send a notice out, either by mail. They would have still had the wrong address, but or use my phone, text message, like every other system has. Medical systems have them. Everybody's got it. It ain't that hard. Or by email to say you missed a court appearance. You need to go to the courthouse and reschedule this within X number of days, or there will be a warrant. None of that was afforded me as somebody who did nothing really. The whole original case is dumb and stupid, and I was not informed of it because they had the wrong address. Despite having the right email and the right phone number for me, they had the wrong mailing address, and they couldn't be bothered to put out a text message type of notification saying you missed your court date. Come in by this date and have this and reschedule your date, please. They couldn't do that, but they could afford to send 3 squad cars to arrest me in front of my kids. So all of that is the kind of thing that I look at and I say, this whole thing was really stupid. Now, I've got friends. I've talked about my friend who was falsely accused of rape 4 years ago, 4 years plus. He spent a weekend in jail for something he didn't do. And when you're not used to being in jail or being in that kind of system, I noticed a lot of the guys I saw, they were used to this stuff. You're not used to that. Oh, and something I didn't mention, he is diabetic too. And he had to get his meds. They took his, I still had my scanner on my arm that scans my blood sugar, but I didn't have my phone, so I couldn't do that. I also did not have any of my meds. I told them there, I said, I have insulin. I'm insulin dependent at the moment. I have to take 2 shots, one in the morning, one in the evening, 1 shot before every meal. So at least 5 shots a day I have to take. I said, I also have meds I take in the morning for my heart and my blood pressure, my cholesterol. I take 9 pills every morning. I take 5 pills every evening. It's dumb. It's dumb that my body's in that shape, but that's where it is. But I told them that, I pretty much got, well, do you think you're going to be okay without your meds? No. That's what I was told. Do you think you're going to be okay without your meds? Things like that. And the nurse was very sweet and nice. She checked my my blood, and it was fine. My blood sugar was fine. The next morning, it was fine. I didn't eat anything. I didn't eat any of the jail food. I had 3 meals that were served to me while I was there. I didn't eat anything except the one dinner. It had a salad in it. It was just lettuce and it wasn't cucumbers. There was something else in it. Lettuce with some dressing on it. I ate that. I couldn't eat any other food. I got to tell you, the food was disgusting. And I'm not a snob. We eat a lot of junk around here, daily life. You look at the kind of junk you intake. This was, as I mentioned, I'll describe the one meal, even though it's after 11. It was that big chunk of white something that was about that thick and about that big, looked like a brick. And I didn't know what it was. I had to ask the other inmate. I go, hey, anybody eating? What is this white thing? And they all said, that's cake. And then there was next to it in a different compartment was a swath of dark brown glob that had little red specks in it. And it was just like slapped into that tray and wiped into the section of the tray. I said, and what's this brown stuff? That's peanut butter and jelly. Oh, really? And I said, and then what's this? And the one meal, the dinner I got was like some kind of macaroni dish with, I could see little bits of broccoli in it, but it was gray and slimy wet. And I looked at it and I took my spork, my little plastic spork, and I took one little bite and I went, I said, I'm not eating that. It was garbage food. And, the one guy over there again said, if you're not going to eat that, send it over. So I walked it over to him. I go, it's all yours, buddy. And so I didn't eat any of the food while I was there. I skipped 3 meals while I was there. No big deal. I've skipped meals like that. I've skipped eating in 24-hour periods before. No big deal. I didn't drink the water there. I did not want to put my lips up to the drinking fountains they had in the cells. And I certainly didn't want to use the nasty cup they gave me to take water from the drink. I didn't even drink anything while I was there. I did ask when they, by the way, when I was set loose, the judge said, okay, you're done. And I could go home. They wanted me to go up and gather up all my bedding, the vinyl bedding upstairs and all the bag of stuff and all that, and the cup they gave you and all of that junk. And, I looked at the guard and I said, do you really think I need to go up and do that? I said, I brought it up there under a duress. And I said, I'm a free man. I said, that ain't my responsibility. I said, I'll do it so as not to cause you any problems. I said, but you realize you're asking me to do that. And that's not my job. That's your job. And so I went and I gathered up the stuff and I brought it down. But, and I was still good humored about it. I said, can't we call the concierge to go get that? I said to him at first, and he kind of laughed. All of that stuff there was a stupidity about it, a dumbness about it. Even when you were found that you weren't there, and I think the guards that were there that had to sit in that room when I was before the judge and they heard everything that went on, I noticed they treated me very differently after hearing that in front of the judge. And they were like, when they came back, it took about another half an hour or an hour. And they came and got me. Open the door, they go, Roberts, in the cell block. And I go, right here. And they said, come on. And I come out and they go, come on, let's get you out of here. Let's go. And it's like their demeanor changed a bit, but there it is. Oh, Cordy, I have a good day going already. That might have been a bad day, but I will tell you this. It was my attitude. It's like the same thing I talk about in business and in work. It was the same thing working for Quick Trip. You bring your attitude, you make somebody else's day, and you're there in the moment. You have to live in that moment, so you do the best you can in that moment. And I think I did. Now, of course, mine was incredibly minor. There are people that go through a lot worse things than I went through. So mine was, and I wouldn't compare it to anybody having to go through anything much worse than that. So mine was just mine, and it makes a good story for a Sunday morning. And on that note, we'll be back tomorrow night with Intrepid Radio. I don't know what we're talking about. I got to get myself back in the mode after being a week off the air. But we'll be back tomorrow night. Plan for it, 9 p.m. Central Standard, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. West Coast time for Intrepid Radio. And all be there or be square, as they used to say. Thank you for being here today. And you know what? I'll catch you next time. So until then, live long and prosper.